It's time for The Verdict. The Verdict is a lively discussion of current events and legal issues pertinent to Oklahomans. The Verdict is hosted by Kent Myers and Mick Cornett. It's time for The Verdict.
Hello again, and thank you for joining us. I'm Mick Cornett, this is Kent Myers, and this is The Verdict. Kent, a good show lined up today.
Yes, tonight we're going to be talking about speaking up for kids. There is an organization in Oklahoma that does just that, the Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy. It's hard to say if you're an advocate, is formed just for that purpose. And we have the executive director here tonight to talk about what's coming up on the OICA's agenda for the next legislative session. Mick, we hear a lot in the political campaigns about family values, and everybody is for them, and if you're not for them, you wouldn't dare admit it and try to get elected to anything. But I wonder where all the proponents of family values are when we're dealing with children with awful families or no families at all and are in the foster care system, and how do we make sure those children are not lost or slip through the cracks? And the one way we try to keep a focus on them is using organizations like OICA to speak up for those kids that don't have a voice. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, and I hope our viewers will enjoy it.
Yeah, not an easy issue, but certainly an important issue.
Yes.
It's coming up next on The Verdict.
Children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
Hello, I'm Jason Winder, Vice President of Sound Mortgage Group.
Time for your mortgage to start working for you instead of you working for your mortgage. On Sound Mortgage's Payment Select loan with your good credit, rates start at 1%. Every month you get the choice and flexibility of 4 different payment options, from interest only to paying off your loan in 15 to 30 years. Homeowners call 800-383-9552. That's 800-383-9552. Where Sound Mortgage's Payment Select 4-payment option loan.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Come on down and bring your family to the Rose State College Health Fair. It's Saturday, February 5th. You can stop by the KSBI booth and register for tons of prizes. The 12th annual Heart Fair has dozens of vendors. Come down and see me, Chef Walter, from 9 to 9:30 on the center stage. And then at the KSBI booth, we've got cooking demonstrations, and you can even sample the food. KSBI is proud to be a sponsor of the Heart Fair because good health is a work of heart.
And welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce our guest.
We are very pleased today to welcome back Ann Roberts, the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy. Ann has held that position for 15 years. She is a graduate of the University of Oklahoma, both undergraduate and with a graduate degree. She's also on the adjunct faculty at St. Gregory's University. Very significantly, she was chosen for the National Child Advocate of the Year Award, a very prestigious honor given to one person, and she got it in 2000. And she is carrying her activities in support of children and children's issues on as Executive Director of the Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy. This is her second appearance on The Verdict, and thanks for coming back.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the big picture. What is the Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy?
I think you all said it very well in your opening segment. We exist to raise awareness, take action, and speak up for kids at the state capitol. We are getting ready for our big session to start. We have a lot of new legislators who are not familiar with kids' issues, so we have a big educational process ahead of us.
Are you wanting to grow?
Oh, sure. In fact, we've just started our 2005 children's campaign to raise more money so that we can enhance our capacity to do this good work.
What's your annual budget?
We have about $1.3 million right now. We have 16 employees. We run a variety of programs in the community. We're talking about teen pregnancy and some of the issues that are really very extreme in Oklahoma City. You'd be interested to know. And we're tackling those with some programs. But then right now, our priority is working with the legislature on children's issues.
Yes, we're just beginning the legislative session. One thing that seems to get a lot of attention, as well it should, is substance abuse. What do you have in mind for this year?
Well, over the last probably 10 years, we've worked on the issue of tobacco, and primarily to prevent youth having access to tobacco. We want to take that same model and apply it to alcohol. Unfortunately, it took the death of the student at OU for a lot of Oklahomans to rally around this tragedy to try to figure out what we can do about it. When I was doing my research, I was frankly a little stunned to find out that even though methamphetamine and a lot of the illegal substances are what get a lot of news attention, alcohol is actually the drug of choice for most high school and college-age kids. So we are asking our legislators to take a look at that and see if we can put some more parameters around alcohol in our state.
What is this Prevention of Youth Access to Alcohol Act? What would it do if it were enacted?
See, right now, low point beer, or 3.2 beer as we call it, is practically unregulated in Oklahoma. And yet we glamorize alcohol. Lots of kids have parties and at sporting events, and they have the keg parties and whatnot. And a lot of people, even though it is illegal to sell beer to minors, it happens all the time, just like it used to with cigarettes. And so we want to apply that same principle to strengthen our compliance laws in Oklahoma to perhaps take the license away of a person who would sell to a minor. And the other aspect of it is to put the onus on the minor, him or herself, by removing their access to being able to drive, which, as you know, is very exciting for a young person. And if we're able to take their license away for a long period of time, that might motivate them to not get involved in the first place in alcohol abuse.
Well, you're involved not only in not letting them get involved in the first place, but you're also involved on the other side of that coin, is after they have gotten involved and have gotten in trouble, then what do you do insofar as treatment or juvenile drug courts or the like? What's your legislative agenda there?
Well, again, in my research, I discovered that substance abuse treatment for youngsters is practically non-existent in Oklahoma. We have one small opportunity for that to happen. And the tobacco tax actually that passed will provide some funding for alcohol or substance abuse treatment for youngsters. But one of our goals is to provide additional services throughout the state. I mean, they're pretty localized right now, and if you don't happen to live in the right place, you don't get good services. So one of our goals is to put more money into substance abuse treatment. But then, one of the really exciting vehicles that we've discovered to address the issue of substance abuse with kids is called juvenile drug courts. And this is a wonderful opportunity to combine the forces of the justice system with the treatment services of the substance abuse and mental health people to divert the kids out of jail and provide them substance abuse treatment. And if we can get them back on the right track, we have a better chance of letting them have a productive life.
Well, is the mental health issue, is that an issue that involves the parents of the kids or the kids themselves?
Oh,
where is your point of view?
It's got to be, the family has to be involved. Because a lot of the times the parents are unaware of the laws that exist, that a lot of parents provide the kegs for their kids. And so it's very important that the parents be involved, the whole family be involved in learning what the laws are about and the devastating effects that substance abuse can have on a young life. So it's just critical that we have those two things together.
What about early childhood issues? Getting away from substance abuse for a minute. What do you have going? We've done a show with Bob and Peggy McCormick on early childhood education. But where does your agenda fit in on early childhood matters?
Actually, this one has come as a result of some federal things that have been happening. You might be familiar with 1996, we had the welfare reform laws. Well, that meant that we needed to put folks to work. Well, in order to have work environments, you have to have some place to put their children. And so in Oklahoma, our DHS made a very wise decision to put some of those welfare dollars into child care. We were able to beef it up and bring quality to it and provide a subsidy for low-income parents to be able to provide quality child care for their kids. Well, that was in 1996, and those dollars have just been going down and down and down. And so now we're looking at an appropriation from the state to be able to replace those federal dollars that are going away so that we can keep parents working and keep their kids safe in quality child care.
What about education for parents on parenting? Is that an effort of yours?
Absolutely. Again, with the revenue shortfalls that we've had over the past 3 or 4 years, a lot of the primary prevention programs that the state provides, primarily parent education and support, they have really suffered budget cuts, and we've lost, for instance, one of the programs that we have is called Children First, and it provides a nurse to provide services in the home to help with well baby checks and parenting education and bonding between the parents. We started out with almost 300 nurses, and over the last 3 years we've lost over 100 of those nurses. And so probably 3,000 families have gone without those kinds of services. So our proposal is to reinstate those dollars. We have a variety of programs, not just Children First, but there are other programs like Parents as Teachers. That's actually a literacy program for young families that helps them also understand child development. So we want to reinstate those dollars and beef those programs back up.
Once you have a child out of early childhood and off into high school, we know that dropouts occur quite often. I don't know how Oklahoma stacks up nationally in relation to a dropout rate, but what are you doing, if anything, about dropout prevention?
Well, again, this goes back to budget cuts, unfortunately. Several years ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago now, the legislature found out that dropouts were really a big problem. And we know that education is the key, and if we've got to keep kids in school, they're going to have a chance of being successful. But we have a variety of situations that lead kids to drop out of school. And so the legislature created what we call alternative education programs. Kids who are either having trouble in school, lots of times it's a disciplinary problem where they might be suspended from school. They don't do well in a regular classroom. They need special kinds of attention. So we've created alternative schools. Some of them are on site where the school is, some of them are off campus. But they provide that extra care for these students, and it's been tremendously successful. I think in 2004, something like 70% or higher of those kids went on to graduate from high school.
The kids that were in alternative schools.
Yeah. And then some of the other ones were able to get their GED. So very successful program, and yet when the budget cuts came, they suffered a huge, like a $4 million cut. And so it's just critical. As we know, all Oklahomans have been very, the Maps for Kids and all of those projects that really infuse money into schools. We understand the value of education. But we've got these kids that are going to fall through the cracks unless we plug that hole and make sure they have the opportunity to go to alternative schools and to continue their education as well.
Let me jump in here and get us to a break. We're visiting with Ann Roberts. She's with the Oklahoma Institute of Child Advocacy, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Bella Shaw, And as a former CNN news anchor, I can tell you I am always interested in new scientific breakthroughs, especially about weight loss. Well, listen to this breakthrough about a weight loss supplement called propylene. In this new double-blind placebo study conducted by doctors from Georgetown University and the University of Texas, the study concluded that participants achieved amazing weight loss results without having to change anything in their lives.
You don't change your life. All you do is take a pill, and the fat just comes off.
It definitely works by itself, because I know I didn't do anything different, and I took it and I lost weight.
It works. You know, and I don't know how, but it does.
The study concluded that taking this supplement, propylene, as prescribed, will cause a reduction of body fat and weight without any change in lifestyle.
It was just very easy. You just take these pills about 20 minutes before you eat, and the pounds just fell off.
Trust me. Try it, eat the same way, do what you're doing, and this pill will work.
Propylene is so powerful that people in this study lost weight over the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. You don't have to change anything in your life. Just take propylene and you will lose weight. With over 2 million bottles sold, propylene is one of the most successful weight loss products available. Propylene is now available direct over the phone without a prescription.
Call now to try propylene risk-free for 30 days for only $29.95. If you don't see amazing weight loss results, send it back and we'll refund your $29.95. But wait, it gets better. Call now and we'll include a second bottle absolutely free. Call in the next 10 minutes and your shipping and handling is also free. That's right. Call now and your second bottle and shipping is free. That's an additional $40 value. Yours free when you call right now.
Call 1-800-635-2224.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Ann Roberts of the Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy is our guest, and we're discussing issues involving children. Kent?
And before we started on the show, we were talking about teen pregnancy issues and Oklahoma's position in that. We have a pretty high rate, I guess, of teen pregnancy. Can you fill our viewers in on where Oklahoma stands in that area?
Well, on the one hand, I've got good news. Around the country, teen pregnancies are going down, even in Oklahoma. But the bad news is we're still 8th worst in the nation with births to teens, 15 to 19. And that can even be a little deceiving because we are actually even worse when it comes to young teens, 15 to 17.
That's on a per capita basis.
On a per capita basis. And, you know, people throw up their hands and say, you know, what's going on? And a lot of it has to do, again, with education, with a lack of parental support. You've seen a lot of commercials on television that really emphasize the need for parents to talk to their kids about sex and drugs and rock and roll, and yet we still are shying away from doing that. And yet we have a lot of community groups that are stepping up to the plate to work with schools, work with parents, work with religious organizations to try to get that communication going. And that can really be key.
What's your organization going to be trying to do this year in relation to teen pregnancy?
Well, we really need to put more monies into communities, into schools. And
to do what?
To do programs in the schools. For instance, the one that we do at the Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy is just a marvelous program in a couple of schools in Oklahoma City where we use peer educators. In other words, taking older teens, teaching them a curriculum called Postponing Sexual Involvement, and then they go and work with middle school kids. You know, we know even though we can say something over and over and over, it goes in one ear and out the other from an adult. But when a teen says it to another teen, it can be very meaningful. And one of the things that kind of blows me away when I go and observe in the classroom is these youngsters who are older teens, when they start looking at the way the media portrays them, they get furious and they realize the media is trying to get us to do things that aren't healthy for us. We need to show our younger siblings and our younger kids in school what that's doing to them, that they can say no. And so a lot of it is role playing, teaching them what to say when they feel pressured to do something that they don't think is good for them.
Well, are the schools where this programs that now exist, are they supportive of it?
They're very supportive of it. In fact, we get letters from parents and letters from the principals saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And what we do is we train those younger kids, the older kids, and then we have a wonderful success story in our own office. One of the teenagers who was in high school when we first started this program, she has volunteered to be with that program and help out. And I'll be darned if she hasn't come back and is now running the program now that she's graduated from college. So it's been tremendously successful, and she really has a way with those kids and has a way of helping them understand how to say no, and that it's a good thing to delay sexual activity till you're older.
How good of a job are we doing in preparing our youth to be healthy and functioning adults?
Well, that's a really critical issue because, as Kent knows, with the Lawyers for Children working with kids who are deprived, meaning they have been removed from their homes for abuse and neglect, a lot of times we're not preparing children to what we call age out of the system. When they turn 18, a lot of times they're done. And I don't know if you all have kids that have turned 18, but I don't think I was ready for the adult world, just super duper all of a sudden turn 18 and you're an adult.
So you're saying we had some sort of oversight for these kids who apparently needed it, and once they turn 18, that oversight disappears. Now they have more freedom than they've ever experienced before.
And a lot of them come from such terrible situations, or they wouldn't have been removed from their homes in the first place. They need a lot of attention. And a lot of times, especially in our foster care system, there might not be the resources either at school or in the community to help them understand the kinds of things that they need to know when they turn 18, like how to do a budget, how to apply for college, how to apply for a scholarship. And then even when Oklahoma was able to provide some scholarships for kids to get into state colleges, they would still tell me, but where do I go for Christmas? You know, and that really brings it home that these are kids who are virtually homeless if they don't have a college environment. And so it's really important that we provide services for kids who are coming out of foster care. So that's one of our big pushes this year. It's called independent living, is to provide those services for those kids.
At some point, I suppose those services would come from DHS. I know the director has made a supplemental request for additional money. I mean, he can't get by with the sums that he has now on current needs. And what we're talking about is expanding the need for funding. How are you, in your efforts with the legislature, going to prioritize? If a legislature looks you in the eye and says, "Ann, we can't do all 8 things that you're talking about. I'd try to help you on 3 of them. What 3 do you want?" I'm not asking you to do that today, but how do you sort that out? How do you, if there's not enough money to go around, how do you decide where you're going to put it?
I'm going to get that question a lot. And what I'm pleased to say is we're having some unprecedented cooperation between agencies right now. As you mentioned, Howard Hendrick, who is the director of the Human Services Cabinet, and then Commissioner Klein, Dr. Klein, who is the health commissioner, are holding joint meetings, because what happens is they get caught in almost a competitive environment when legislators approach them and say, well, I've got $1, do I spend it on you or him? And so I just think it's amazing, and Oklahoma is pretty unique in this because state agency directors have the bigger vision to protect all kids, not just the kids that they are responsible for. So they've gotten together and found out how much money do we need to make all of our programs run effectively. And so we're going to be saying the same thing instead of having to compete with each other.
In the brief time we have available, we've had a show with Stanley Hupfeld, as you know, on the Fit Kids Coalition, and I've been seeing recently the vending machine pictures on television with the sweet snacks. What are you doing this year to try to bring that subject up again about the kids making wise selections on what they buy in school?
We've made tremendous progress over the summer and in the spring, because after our legislation was passed from last year, which was the Fit Kids legislation, where it would require all the schools to have a health committee. where we can have physicians and school nurses and parents particularly to assess what's going on their particular local campus.
In regard to diet.
In diet and physical activity.
Yeah.
And lots of them, the school boards have stepped up to say, you know, we need to do something about this. And all over the state, not everywhere, but quite a number of school districts are doing that. So this year we're coming up behind that to say we still have too many vending machines with unhealthy choices. We're going to ask that they remove the unhealthy items, replace them with healthy items, and then restore PE into schools, grades 0 through 5, or K through 5.
We have run out of time, and you're going to have to come back and have another show so you can fill us in on all of the matters that we didn't get to today.
You bet.
Ann Roberts, the director of the Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy, has been our guest. Kent and I'll be back with a final word when we get back.
Whether you're opening your first savings account or planning for your retirement, you're important to us at Citizens Bank of Ada.
Buying, building, or refinancing, Citizens Bank is proud to be a part of your homeownership plans.
Our philosophy, you're more than just a customer, you're our friend and neighbor. We're Ada's locally owned and operated bank, and that means your money stays here, making our community a great place to live. People make the difference at Citizens Bank of Ada.
American Express Tax and Business Services. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. American Express Tax and Business Services. In Oklahoma City, the phone number is 405-843-5311.
It's Saturday JP Sports action you won't want to miss as Alabama takes on Florida or Kentucky takes on Vanderbilt.
Heritage Hall, an independent college preparatory school. Here we celebrate our scientists, our athletes, our mathematicians, and our future artists.
Our students love to learn. A welcoming school for children aged 3 through grade 12. We are a community. We are a family. We are Heritage Hall.
5 years ago, my traditional business went bankrupt. I started a home-based business, and now I'm earning over $500,000 a year. If you're considering a home business, this is the one website you need to visit.
I got started less than a year ago, and already I'm up to $5,000 a month.
I make over $7,000 a month in my spare time.
My goal for next year is $50,000 a month. Create your own success story. Log on to this website and get started today.
Log on to 22future.com and create your own success story. Log on to 22future.com and get started now.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers here to wrap up another show, and we discuss childhood issues and issues involving children.
Speaking up for kids. Ann Roberts is a great representative of kids everywhere, and her organization, the OICA, does a marvelous job speaking up for kids, and they do it every year at the legislature and beyond and across the state. And we wish them good luck in their endeavors, because certainly those that profit from it are all of us, because if our youngest and most neglected kids get some benefit out of this, that's going to be to the benefit of all of us. Next week we're going to have a former federal judge. Many of you may have wondered what it's like to be a federal judge. We'll tell you on this show next week when we have Mike Burridge, a former federal judge, talk to us about doing that very job.
And we like to give website information involving our guest. You can reach Ann Roberts and her organization at oica.org, or give them a call at 405-236-KIDS. I know there's a lot of generous people out there. They would appreciate your financial help as well if you're able to do that. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week on The Verdict.